Today we're sitting down with Blaine Oelkers, America's only Chief Results Officer from Selfluence. In this episode, Blaine, Rich, and I talk about a lot of hacks and secrets on how you can be more productive and efficient in your life to get more results with a little less effort and certainly a lot more happiness. We talk about the 30-minute hour, 21-second habits. We also talked about what you think about, you bring about, and how it's so important for entrepreneurs to have the right mindset of knowing exactly what they want in order to go accomplish it. Here's Blaine Oelkers. Blaine, welcome to the Entrepreneurs United podcast. Excited to have you with us today. I have to get here right off of the bat. You're the America's only Chief Results Officer. And I love the title. You certainly hear CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, a lot.
Yes.
We're not talking about revenue today. We're talking about results and how you can get more results with less stress, be more efficient. Tell me, how did Chief Results Officer come to be for you?
Oh, yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on. Appreciate you guys. I know it's a lot of work to put these things together, to put them out there, to put them online. And you guys have some great shows. And I hope today to add some value to the show. But for me, I had a few moments of dawning comprehension that kind of led me down this path to becoming America's only Chief Results Officer. I'll share two quick dawning comprehension moments and then how I got the title. But for me, the first one came in college. And I was at Purdue University, and I've always been, I think, kind of like you guys and maybe most of your listeners, a seeker of knowledge. How can I get better? How can I get an edge, competitive edge, or things like that? And I sent away for an audio tape about this book called Think and Grow Rich. And so I got this audio tape. It was read by Earl Nightingale, who I ended up liking even afterwards. But I read that, and then I bought the book and I read the book. And it was in there in college that I really figured out, okay, wait a second, Think and Grow Rich. Like there's a method to taking the things you want and kind of bring them to life in the physical world. So that helped me a lot. I actually met my wife in college. We've been married 30 years. But that set me on this course. And later I came up with a little phrase, YTABA, what you think about, you bring about. But that opened my mind to the possibilities. And I had some success. My degree's in computer science. And dawning comprehension moment two, which kind of led me to this Chief Results Officer, came when I was working a technical sales job. And I came home from this business trip and my son was 1 year old. And he kind of like was giving me the cold shoulder. I'm like, hey, Beth, what's wrong with Bo over here? Why is he giving me the cold shoulder? And she said, well, you were gone so long, he kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, what? So that like hit me hard emotionally. And then I remembered like my parents both worked. So I came home to an empty house most days. And so I made this, what I call a clarifying decision that night. I said, no matter what I do, I am going to work from home. I'm going to be the work from home dad, no matter what. Now, we're pretty conservative, so it took me a year. And our marriage was probably under the most pressure during that year ever because I started two businesses and kept my full-time job. But a year later, I broke free and I became this work from home dad. My dad actually had passed away, so I kind of did it in honor of him too. But that was 27 years ago. So I started then, tethered from the 9-to-5 job. I was able to try to pursue my passions more. And I started businesses that had no daily operations on my part. So I really got into self-development. I founded a company called Selfluence, which is kind of the art and science of influencing yourself, or more so the power you already have to influence yourself. You don't need any new courses. You already know how to do it. And so in doing that company, I had friends who were starting mastermind groups. They said, hey, Blaine, why don't you kind of be our mindset, results person? So I started helping them get results kind of on a weekly basis. And they said, look, we're going to call you the Chief Results Officer. And so the title was born. I said, hey, I like that. Nobody else is using it. But then I took one business step further and I went to the US Patent Office and I got the registered trademark. So the R with the circle, that wields a little more power. So now in the United States, at least, if you want to use that term, you have to kind of get my permission. So I've only had to send out two nasty letters so far, attorney letters. But outside of that, I am that person, and I believe, and well, I know that God kind of put me on the planet to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. So I really like personal implementation, and we can unpack all kinds of things today to help the listeners, in that area. But that is probably a longer answer than you wanted, but now you have the full story.
That's great. Blaine, I'm intimidated. You had said you already do it. You already know how to do it. And I'm sitting here going, know how to do what? So tell me, what do I already know how to do in terms of self-fluence that you may have words to or an order to or bring awareness to be able to have self-fluence?
Yeah. So it comes down to certain key areas. So like personal implementation, there's certain key areas there. Like you already know how to what I call hack your head trash, which everybody has amount of head trash. So there are things you already know how to do in that area. The second area is habit creation. So we tend to really become those habits, good and bad. So there's bad habit elimination, but creating new habits. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm no good at that. My New Year's resolution is gone by January 15th, and those things. But you really do know how to create habits, and you know how to keep habits. And then the last one, which is probably for entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, is this idea of overwhelm and not having enough time. And you already know how to compress time. And I call it the 30-minute hour, how to get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes. You already know how to do it. I also have something called the 21-second habit, how to create a new habit in 21 seconds, not 21 days. Again, you already know how to do it. Nothing else required. You have the full capacity. The software is already in there. You just have to turn it back on.
So I want to double click on each of those. So in terms of hacking your head trash, how does that happen? What are your recommendations on tips to do that?
Yeah. So everybody has a certain amount of head trash. Now, because I take the head trash out daily, my head trash is rather small in the corner, and if it starts to speak up, I know how to kind of drowned it out, let's say, right? And so that's one area. Sometimes people are laden with head trash, and that could take a little bit more. But the first thing to realize is something you already know, which is the solution to pollution is dilution. So the solution to pollution is dilution. And what that means is, like, if you ever had like if you look like a beaker of water and it's really dark, because there's something inside, there's some dirt in that water. If you start to pour clear water into that beaker, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. If you pour enough water in there, it'll become transparent again. So it's that same concept with hacking your head trash. You already know what are the positive influencers in your life, and this is not rocket science. This is just more of what works and less of what doesn't work, right? So you pour in more of the positive, and you try to limit or remove the negative, right? So when we're looking at hacking our head trash, the first step is pouring in the positive, because sometimes it's hard to push away the negative. But pouring in the positive is, what are those things that are your personal lifters, right? So for me, my favorite mentor, I share the stage with him. I love this man. He's not with us anymore, but it's Jim Rohn. So I got to know Jim Rohn personally, and I can put on a certain Jim Rohn program, which I listened to 50 times during the hardest times of my life, which was a lot, was that 1 year I talked about. But it's called The Power of Ambition. You can get on Audible right now, but I can put that thing on, and that will physically change my state of mind. Physically, like, not just mentally. I will feel better. I will be upbeat. My posture will change. So figuring out what are those positive lifters, for you. So it could be what you listen to. For me, if there's music that lifts me up, again, mentors, reading certain books, Think and Grow Rich, obviously, reading books like that, being around positive people, but all the inputs to your brain. Like, that means the food you eat. There's some foods that you feel like crap after you eat them, and there's some foods that are kind of energizing, and it could be a cup of coffee, it could be caffeine, whatever. You know these things. So make a list of the good stuff, and then also realize the bad stuff, like where the bad moods come from. Who are you hanging around when that happens, right? Or what thoughts are you having that lead you down that bad path? And with thoughts, let me stop there. But with thoughts, we can unpack we can put a few more tools in your head trash toolkit here. But let me stop there and see what you guys think about that initial stuff.
Yeah, just want to validate, and then I'd love to come back and get a few more tools. So I love the idea of take out the trash daily. Drowning it out. The solution to pollution is dilution, and that's really focusing on what makes you feel good. So pouring in the positive, limiting the negative. You said Jim Rohn. Power of Ambition is one of those things that you can consistently listen to and you'll get energy from. Feel free to expand on a few more tips.
Yeah. So this idea, one thing is this idea of taking out the trash every day. So most people take a shower every day. They take a physical shower, and so what I recommend is that you take a mind shower. Every day. So every morning I take a mind shower. Now, I like a 10-minute mind shower, but if I don't have a lot of time, I'll do the 3-minute mind shower. I always have time for the 3-minute mind shower. Now, when we talk about creating habits, this 21-second habit, creating a habit in 21 seconds, not 21 days. We could use that as an example because that's what I did. I did that technique. And, today there's 2 habits that I started at the same time. And I'm at day 1,540 something in a row of not missing that habit. So it develops a lot of consistency. So anyway, that mind shower, now I use an app called Headspace. There's an app called Calm that's really good for it. If you're Christian, there's an app called Abide, which is really good. But anyway, they help you, with some breathing and with some kind of cleaning out of the mind. Super good stuff. Anyway, I will probably never miss that shower, another day in my life. The other toolkit is you have to get your mind working for you, not against you. And so the way your mind works is it is kind of like Google. It wants to like answer questions. And there's 2 things you can do. One is a simple phrase, and it's yeah, but. And so whenever you find yourself maybe have a limiting belief or a thought that you don't like, you want to say yeah, but. So you say like, I never have time. I never have enough time for my business. Yeah, but. And then you let your mind answer. Yeah, but you control your schedule. Yeah, but you could get the personal assistant. Yeah, but you could stop doing those distracting shiny objects. Yeah, but. And the yeah, but is the opposite side, and your brain tries to help you and tries to move things in the right direction. So I always often tell people, look, let's just start yeah butting each other. Right. So in our family, we would yeah but the negative beliefs, the limiting beliefs. There's a quote I heard a while back, when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And so when I start hearing people, saying, I can't do this, I'm not this, I'm too old, I'm this, I'm that, I'm like, wow, you are good. You have what I call the pre-defeated mind, because you're already acknowledging those. You're arguing for them, right? You're never going to get away from. But the yeah, but helps you to kind of flip the switch. The other thing is to use affirmations instead of affirmations. So that's the last tool for the toolkit. So affirmations are things like, saying, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. And your brain kind of says, no, you're not, no, you're not. Now, if you say the affirmation long enough, your brain will begin to believe it and it'll make a shift. But this other guy came along and he said, no, try using questions instead and affirmations to get your brain to start working for you. So instead of saying, I am healthy, you say, why do I find it so easy to be healthy? And again, you want to pause to let your mind answer and then take action on the answers, right? So why do I find it so easy to be healthy? Because I threw out the junk food, because I started eating a salad a day, because I started hanging around with people who are exercising, and you follow the breadcrumb trails, which then lead to bigger trails and bigger and better things. So there's a couple of more tools for the head trash toolkit.
Blaine, how do you respond to, I just don't have enough time?
Yeah, that nobody has enough time. We all have the same amount of time, and I would typically respond with the concept of this 30-minute hour, and that if you don't have enough time, you need to compress time. You really have 2 choices. You got to compress time, and really you have to prioritize. I mean, you have enough time for what you make time for, right? So if there's an emergency in your family, forget about work. You drop it all. You're at the hospital if you need to be, right? So you can make things happen. But anyway, people know how to do it. They know how to compress time. You don't have 30-minute hours. So we could unpack that right now if you guys are kind of done on the head trash side, but we could unpack that. That's a fun one. You already know how to do it, and you'll never have an unproductive day again.
Yeah, I didn't want to derail where Rich was walking you down. I love the path. It's just, that's probably the statement that that irritates me the most when I hear it from And entrepreneurs hear this all the time when they're working with their team. Well, I just don't have enough time to do something. And here we are talking to the chief results officer. That statement must drive you absolutely bananas if ever you hear that from somebody, because here you are looking at, no, you don't need an hour to do this certain situation, right? And maybe I changed subjects from the head trash all the way over to compressed time. But I thought it was just really important, the but statement that you brought up there being such a critical response to, I don't have enough time, because it's such a cop-out from
well, I think, two things come up for me there. One is I would start somebody off with that, when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So as long as you believe and keep saying, I never have enough time, you never will have enough time. Now you can also use the but, and a lot of times that's all you have to say. So they'll say, I just don't have enough time. Yeah, but. And then they'll get it and they'll start saying, yeah, but yes, I do control my time. I could hire the assistant. I could. And it kind of shifts them over to the other side. But the other question is, if you really want to come at them, if you're more in the, if you're kind of wanting to push them into a direction, you can say, well, why is it that you don't want enough time? Like you say, I never have enough time. So why is it that you are holding on to that? Like, why do you not want to have time? Like, are you hiding from something? Are you, and typically they are. Typically when people are super busy, but not really productive, they're hiding from a role in their life that maybe they're struggling at home or as a parent, or they're hiding from a part of their business that isn't doing well, that they don't want to face. So some of that can be a little bit, tougher and deeper. And then sometimes you will come across people that, as you dig in, like they need help, like they need like professional help. So I would say, it's a higher number than I thought. Maybe like 1 out of 10 people, I recommend they get some help. Now you can do it online. There's a Talkspace. There's a bunch of different websites where you can get a licensed therapist. Nobody knows about it. You Zoom them or conference call, either one, and just get some help if it's a little bit deeper.
Very good. So in this set of 3, taking out the head trash, habit creation, and then overwhelmed, not having enough time, let's go to habit creation. And you have this 21-second habit that you alluded to. Tell us more about that.
I like how Rich is saving the best for last, the 30-minute hour. He's saving that for last. All right. So the 21-second habit, how to create a new habit in 21 seconds, not 21 days. If they told you it takes 21 days, somebody lied to you. And in actuality, science shows that it takes about 60 days to create a new, like the neural pathways of new habits. But we're going to hack through that so you can do it in 21 seconds. And so most people say that they're not good at creating habits, which is a lie. So you're kind of lying to yourself. So I'll tell 2 stories to kind of illustrate how this came about in my own life. And so my wife, luckily not anymore, but she used to have nearly a daily migraine headache, like a debilitating headache. And so the doctor said, Beth, here is this log, and you got to fill this out every day, like what you eat, what you think the triggers are, what's the barometric pressure changes, the weather, all these different things. And she'd do it for a day, then she'd lose it or forget to do it. And it was really frustrating her, that she couldn't collect this information that the doctors wanted. And so one night, she was brushing her teeth, and I saw her brushing her teeth, and I'm like, she's a habit master at brushing her teeth, like the full 2 minutes that the dentists recommend in the morning and at night. And it was there that I had this idea of, this is kind of the first part of the 21-second habit, is what we call habit linking. And so what we did is, we linked, no willpower required. She brushes her teeth every night, every morning. And so we took the headache log, we put it underneath the toothpaste and the toothbrush and put a pen there. And when she brushed her teeth, she filled out the log. And so she went from couldn't do it 2 or 3 days, losing the log, to filling it out 90 days in a row, 90 days in a row without missing a day, because she habit linked it to the habit she was already a master at. Right. And so that made all the difference. And today, maybe every couple of months at the most, she'll have a migraine headache. So anyway, cool things there. But there's a second and third part to this 21-second habit. So for me, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to, about that time, I said, look, let me put this 21-second stuff to the test. I said, there's two new habits I want. One was to do this Bible app every day, but then the other one was to take the mind shower. And so what I did is I said, okay, what could I have it linked to? What happens every day? And what happens first thing every day? And first thing every day, oh yeah, it is the smartphone. And so sometimes the alarm is going off, but every day the first thing I do is I touch and I open up that smartphone. And so what I did is I moved all the apps off the front page and I just put those two so that when I open my phone first thing in the morning, have it linking to something, no willpower required. I open that phone every single morning, that habit linking to that. And I have to do those two apps before I'm allowed to do anything else on the phone. Now that second part is that's the second part of the 21-second habit. So first it's habit linking, but the second is you need to surf an urge that you have to want to do something to get yourself to stay with that habit till it's done. So for me, why do I open my phone first thing in the morning? Well, I want to see if my kids text me, right? One of them lives in Denmark right now. I usually get texts during the night. I want to check my email. What orders have come in? What's going on in the world? Like I have all these things that I want to check, on that phone. Like I have like a tremendous desire and I surf that urge to make myself do those other two things first. And the last part of the 21-second habit is that you can leverage does help. So the third part, so first is the habit linking, second is surf and urge, and third is have some kind of leverage on yourself. And that pain and pleasure both work, right? So pleasure would be a reward. So you say, look, if I do this new habit for a week in a row or 30 days in a row, give yourself a little reward, give yourself a little prize, right? Another thing is if you could track it, like these apps I use, they track how many days in a row have you done, which is great documentation. But even if you had a little calendar and you put the big X, right? Don't break the chain. Once you get 3 or 4 days in a row, psychologically, you want to keep it going. So tracking that progress is helpful. And then the pain side is also there. Is there a leverage? Is there a penalty when you falter? Now you're human, you're going to falter, but if you have a little penalty, that can sometimes help you, over the hump. Like my wife knows I don't like to wash the big garbage cans. So she'll say, okay, if that doesn't get done, your leverage is you have to go wash the outdoor garbage cans. And if she really wants to make sure I get it done, she says, you have to wash the neighbor's garbage cans outside. I'm like, okay, that is not happening. I will get that thing done, or I won't commit to it if I know I can't get it done. But anyway, those are the three components. And you want to start small, start simple, start with one, and then move forward. I just had a business owner. She said, look, Blaine, you tell me I got to plan my day, which is a big key to getting good results, but she wasn't doing it. And I said, Ann, what do you do first thing every morning? She says, I have a cup of coffee. I said, there you go. So we have it linked to coffee, buy the coffee machine, put the pad of paper, the pen, make the coffee, smell the coffee, get ready to drink the coffee. But you can't take the first sip of the coffee till you start the list. Now, I don't care if you do the list while you drink the coffee, but you look for these things that you're already a habit master at. You wake up every day, you get dressed, maybe you drive to work. There's all these things you do sometimes more than once a day, like brushing your teeth, or there's things you do once a day. There's things you can link to once a week. I had kind of created a big list of all these linkable things that happen for people. But that is how you navigate the 21-second habit.
Can you review again the surf and urge, or go a little bit deeper on that? That didn't connect with me, and it may be because I was taking notes on other things that I had heard.
Yeah. So this is a key component, is that whatever your new habit is, if you can surf the urge, your desire, Napoleon Hill calls it transmute the energy that you have and the desire to do something, and use that energy to get you to do that new habit, right? So for example, for me, when I open up my phone, I don't necessarily want to take a 10-minute mind shower, and do this Bible app. I might not want to do that. But why am I opening my phone? What is the benefit I'm getting from opening my phone? Is that I want to check. I have this urge to know what's going on in the world, what orders have come in, what's happening in my email, right? What's happening maybe in social media. I do want to know if my kids have texted me. I have this desire to plug back into the world. And that desire, that urge is powerful, right? Or like Ann, she has the urge, she wants to drink that coffee, right? Now, if she hasn't made the cup of coffee, the urge is there. But once she makes the coffee and she smells the coffee, and then to not be able to have the coffee till she does that thing, she's going to get in there and make that list really fast. So she's kind of surfing the urge to get the energy to kind of do that habit and to move into that habit.
I understand. Surf the urge has a component of withholding something of desire and pleasure until accomplishing something that you know is good for you, but you might be resistant to in the moment. Surf that urge that you'll want something, but you'll withhold it till you do that good thing for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and you kind of ride the energy. You surf the energy, of that desire. In my wife's case, it was she really doesn't like that. She will not go to bed with that gritty feeling on her teeth. Like she cannot do that. But if she has to start the log before she could start the brushing, then that urge to want to clean the teeth, she uses that to push her through the habit.
Blaine, when we go to the next one, which I believe the next one has to be this 30-minute hour, because you set us up for it's the best one coming up next. When I think about the 30-minute hour, there's some hacks that I've learned over time, and I'd love to kind of bounce these off you before you go into yours to see if I'm on the right track, which is, so many people in their calendar just blocks an hour. Why are you blocking an hour? If you block 30 minutes, the meeting would probably last 30 minutes instead of an hour. And it just seems like we fill our lives with way too much in their schedules that are blocked in those increments where we, force ourselves into it. That's one hack that I've used myself, which is stop saying, and you've always heard maybe the 7-minute meeting, right? Some people have trademarked that. Love to hear your take on how can we make 30-minute hours from
Right. So,
Chief Results Officer.
yeah, yeah, and so you are 100% correct. And there's this law called Parkinson's Law, where work will tend to expand to the time you give it, right? So if you give it an hour, it typically takes an hour, but if you give it 30 minutes, it'll do that. So part of the 30-minute hour is that technique, specifically. Like if someone asks me, Blaine, can we meet for an hour to discuss this project or brainstorm this? I'll always say, can we do it in 30 minutes? And more than 9 times out of 10, they say yes. And that does a couple things. One, that saves me 30 minutes. Two, it emphasizes the importance of the time. And there's a lot less dilly dally, and there's a lot more go go go. Let's get this done. We're we've got this amount of time to do it. But anyway, and that's part of, you already know how to do this. You already have done it. And so we're just going to wake it up a little bit as we go through this. So are you guys ready for the 30-minute hour?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so now this is overly powerful. So I have to make sure that it is used for good and not for evil. And so what I want to ask you both is that, let's say that we have 4 30-minute hours in a row. So we get 4 hours of stuff done in just 2 hours. That leaves us 2 hours of guilt-free time. Now, you guys are probably all the listeners are probably type A. They're just like, well, I'll just get more work done. No, I don't want you to get more work done. And so if you had 2 hours of guilt-free time, how would you use that? So for me, I'm here in my home office. I have a Peloton bike. I love to ride the Peloton bike. So I'd probably ride the Peloton bike. I also like to hike. I'm in Phoenix area. I'd get out for a hike. I like to connect with old friends, and I don't do that enough. So I'd probably do that. And I work from home, so I do like the good old-fashioned power nap. So I probably take a little 15, 20-minute power nap. That's what I would do with my guilt-free 2 hours. So John, what about you? What are you going to do with 2 guilt-free hours, and we're trying to avoid work?
Well, for starters, before I answer that question, I think Rich and I need to have a conversation about moving this podcast to 30 minutes. But anyway, in terms of guilt-free time, you're right. Like I have teenagers, going out and golfing with them, spending the afternoons with them or a morning with them, depending on their schedule, to be more available, to enjoy time with them while they're present. Going to maybe some lunches with friends that sometimes we neglect because we're just running so hard. Heck, even a happy hour from here to there, with some friends in later afternoon, going to do something with them. So to me, it would all be around friends and family oriented, selfishly trying to spend as much time with my kids before they move on to their later years.
Right. Yeah, you can't get that time back. You only have like 18 summers, so yes, cherish them all. Rich, how about you? What would you do?
Oh, during the summer, it would be ride bikes with the 9-year-old. She
Okay.
loves riding bikes. So I'd probably do that. I would take more walks outside, particularly when it's nice enough weather And during the months where it's not nice enough weather, hop on the treadmill. I think those would be things that would make sense. What I wrote down from the way you're encouraging this is to practice self-care during that guilt-free time. And whether the self-care be, it really doesn't matter, reading a book, looking at the sky, taking a nap, having a conversation with a family member or friend. Practice self-care during that time versus try to get more stuff done.
Yeah, bullseye, and that's what, as we talk about this technique and share with everybody today, is I want you to put some of those things back in your life. And the other thing, coming from your chief results officer, and I could share all the scientific studies and psychological studies and all that, but most of the stuff that I share is stuff that you just try it on and it works. But I want you to know that downtime for your conscious mind does produce more results than if you don't take it. Now, if you don't take it, you can burn out. That's one. But studies now are showing that the subconscious mind works on things, but it needs the conscious mind to kind of take a break. So walks in nature or walks, any kind of walk, really balances the brain. And so you can get results from your downtime. So just realize there's some value in there, when you take it. So let's go back to this concept of the 30-minute hour. So there's a day of the year. Now, for some people, this happens more than once a year, but there's a day where the average person is 3 to 10 times more productive than a normal day. So now that's 3x to 10x. We're only looking for 2x. We're only looking to go from 60 minutes down to 30. We're just looking for 2x in productivity. But that day, you're 3 to 10x. 3 to 10 times more productive than an ordinary day. Do either one of you gentlemen know what day that is?
Monday.
No, Mondays is a good day. It's also a high day for heart attacks and stress, but no, it is not a specific day of the week or even a specific calendar.
Where you're 3 times more effective?
You're 3 to 10 times more productive on this day than your normal day.
Rich?
You guys are like, hey, there wasn't supposed to be a quiz, Blaine.
There's only 5 days, so you got to take a cut. You got to take a cut.
No, it's not a day of the week.
By the way, just so you know, the reason why I guess Monday is because usually Monday is a day where if you do practice self-care on the weekends, you're coming out on Monday and there's just a lot of stuff that maybe carried over from last week that you accumulated over the weekend, that you have a lot of stuff going on that week. And I find myself to produce a lot more coming in on a Monday to set my week up to be a little, tamer. So I feel like I knock stuff out a lot quicker and move a lot faster on a Monday, whereas on a Friday, it's kind of, okay, here I am. So that's my personal perspective, but love to hear.
Blaine, I would go with the day you start something new, you're more productive. So the day that you're moving homes, it is amazing how productive we could be the day we're moving homes.
You guys are all over. You're very close.
The first day on a job, you're like, oh my gosh, it felt like 3 days. There was so much that went on that day. So that would be my guess.
Yeah. So you guys are all around it, very close. And the elements of what you said happen. And so, John, this day is more like a turbocharged Monday. But the day of the year that people are 3 to 10 times more productive than the ordinary day is the day before vacation. The day before vacation, people get 3 to 10 times more stuff done than they do on an ordinary day. And so what I want people to feel is, now there's a little stress behind that day. We're not going to talk that much about the stress of that day, but if you realize that is true for everybody, right? And so on the day before vacation, 3 to 10 times more stuff than you normally get done. And what I did is I want to break it down into a memorable thing. So I made a little acronym. And so when you think 30-minute hour, think day before vacation mode, and then think PDF. Now I chose PDF because when I say, hey, email me the PDF or go print out the PDF, everybody knows what a PDF is. Now, most people don't know what it stands for. When you're talking about electronic document, it's a portable document format. Anyway, there's a little bonus trivia, but not for us. For us, I want you to think 30-minute hour, day before vacation mode. PDF stands for plan, delegate, focus. Now, let me unpack each one of those, because hidden in each one of those is are 30-minute hours for you. So if you think about this day before vacation, what happens is, planning wise, you plan out that day. Like you cannot not plan out that day. You got to plan it out. Typically, you plan it out the night before, right? And you really chunk it down. Like you're scheduling in nearly every minute of that day. So you can have some 30-minute hours, which we alluded to before, in the planning and scheduling of your day. Somebody asks for an hour of your time, you give them 30 minutes, right? So it's in the planning of the day that you can actually begin to get those 30-minute hours. So plan a little bit more of your day. Put in blocks for lunch, and maybe you want blocks for exercise and all the things. But the planning of your day is key number one. And that day before vacation, like I said, you're planning that thing out. Now, the day before vacation, people typically wake up 30 to 60 minutes earlier than a normal day because they have a lot to do. So that's one quick way, is you can say, look, tomorrow I'm going to get more done, but I'm going to wake up 30 minutes earlier. Well, that first hour is kind of 30-minute hour because you got yourself 30 extra minutes. So waking up early. The other thing about that day before vacation, you have a clear vision for what you have to get done that day, going into that day. And you're using the 80-20 rule. Like you become this like 80-20 rule master. So the 80-20 rule says that, 20% of what you do creates 80% of your results. But 80% of what you do only creates 20% of your results. So that day before vacation, you are like focused on the 20 because you're going to be out of town and you got to get it done. And you're also ousting a lot of the 80, like the stuff that you can put off, you put off. I'm a big, I call it proactive procrastination. I like push things out till tomorrow. I push everything off my schedule into the next day if I can. And if I push it off for 3 or 4 days, it wasn't that important, right? Or maybe its urgency comes up later as the deadline gets closer or something. But anyway, so planning your day, waking up early, having a clear vision, using the 80-20 rule. So that's the P. The second one, D, stands for delegate. Now, on the day before vacation, you become this like delegation master. And there's a saying, who before do? Like you start thinking, who could do this before you go do it, right? So you think, who before do? Before I do it, who else could do it? There may be things that you're not going to be around for, so you delegate. Like somebody has to check on the house. Somebody might have to tend to the plants or whatever. And realize that doesn't have to be for vacation. You could begin to put those things into your life, right away, right now. So you're delegating more, you're deferring more. And again, that day before vacation, like done is better than perfect, right? So you're really pushing the delegation at a lot higher level on that day before vacation. And then the third part, which is the most powerful to create 30-minute hours, is you have focus. So plan, delegate, focus, but you have a weird, like fierce focus on that day before vacation. Think about all the things that don't happen. There's no chit chat. There's no Netflix binging. There's no long lunchtime. There's, you're not distracted. You're not chasing the new shiny marketing objects, right? All those things, all those distractions are destroyed by your fierce focus, right? So bring some of that, back into your regular day. The other thing is, on the day before vacation, you use the most powerful results word of all, and it's only 2 letters, and that is the word no. You become Dr. No. Like Blaine, someone asked me on the day before vacation, Blaine, can you do this? Blaine, can you do that? No. I'm going on vacation. I become Dr. No. And so adopting that word, like I have a thing here on my desk, day before vacation mode, to remind me all day long to be in that mode slightly, not the stress of it, but the productivity side of it. And I'm saying no all the time. And the big thing about no is sometimes it doesn't always generate the 30-minute hour, but it avoids the 90-minute hour. So these people that ask you to do something and you're like, okay, I'll do that. That'll only take 30 minutes or an hour, and it takes 90 minutes, right? So the power of no is big. On the day before vacation, you tend to stay on schedule more. You tend to be more aware of time. So use timers, right? So I have an iPhone. I'll tell Siri to set some timers, and I'll, whatever, if it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever project I'm working on, I'm using timers and I'm staying on schedule. So pull yourself in to stay on schedule. That'll create more 30-minute hours. The other thing is, the day before vacation, when we study those people, they become masters at tasking. like task masters. And there's three kinds of tasking: single tasking, multitasking, and batch tasking. So where I generate probably the most 30-minute hours for me personally is in single tasking. So single tasking, like that's the thing, only thing Blaine can do. It's like only Blaine can do that. I have to do it. And that may be like, let's say, writing an article. So I write articles for mastermind groups, and I have to write a certain number every month. Well, only I can do that. But I can get an hour's worth of article writing done in 30 minutes if I will go into real single tasking mode. What does that mean? That means my phone goes in airplane mode. That means my door to my home office is closed. That means the only screen open is the one I'm typing in, and there's no rings, dings, bings, distractions, whatever. I'm there, I'm in that moment, and I'm in just focused on that. Now, I will say I am guilty of the monkey mind. So I'm in the middle of my article writing, and then I get this thought this morning during my single tasking. Oh wow, you got to go on LinkedIn and say hi to John and Rich before the podcast. What do? I don't stop what I'm doing. I take a scrap paper, I write it down as scrap paper, and I just get going again. So I use scrap paper. I capture my ideas, but I quickly put them out off to the side. But anyway, that single tasking, if you will do that, I guarantee that you can get an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes if you will shut out all distractions, shut out the world, and make that your time. So that's single tasking. Second one is multitasking. Now that typically gets a bad rap, but it's where you're doing two things, two tasks at the same time without sacrificing the quality of either one. So that tends to be stuff like on the day before vacation, I'm driving somewhere for 30 minutes, right? I could just, listen to a podcast, or I could, listen to some 80s music. But on the day before vacation, I'm like, no, I got to make these calls. I got 2 calls to make. I can do it on my drive, right? So doing calls, I have a hands-free phone. It's totally safe. I can do a quality call and a quality drive at the same time. Exercise, like I used to combine exercise and family time. I love that. So we all played tennis, so we could go out and play tennis. So I got my exercise and my sports and my tennis fix in, but I also got my family time in. So looking for the synergy where you can do 2 things, again, and keep the quality high. So there aren't a lot of things that fit in that category, but there are some. And then the last one is batch tasking. That is where on the day before vacation, you naturally batch stuff together. So don't lose that skill on the days where it's not the day before vacation. For example, if you have 3 errands to run, you don't run an errand, come back, run errand, come back. You go out and you batch it together. You run all the errands together. You do all your computer work together. You do all your editing together. You do all your phone calls together. When you batch those things that are similar, you can do 60 minutes of it in 30 minutes a lot of times because you're batching it together. And the last part of batching is you have to batch interactions with people as well. That will generate a lot of 30-minute hours. 2 examples on that. One is simply just office hours, right? So if you're working with a team and you're going to do single tasking from 9 to 11, you say, look, at 11 o'clock, we'll get together on Zoom or meet in my office. And from 11 to 11:30, any questions you have from the morning, let's handle them there. So you batch those questions together for that single, so you can get your single focus time. And during that group time, that's where you handle that stuff. My wife and I, she also works from home. We used to text each other and interrupt each other all day long, and so now we have a shared note inside our iPhones, and we just add the stuff there. Then we have lunch together typically. Then we go through that list of next time I'm with Beth, I want to talk about these things. But it's not a notification that goes off in her phone. It doesn't, disturb her. She can go look at it if she wants at any time. But anyway, this batching of interactions is also, produces the 30-minute hour. So there it is. It's, well, I'll say one other thing. The other thing about the day before vacation is that it releases your inner perfectionist. So the day before vacation releases your inner perfectionist, and done is better than perfect. And you just have to get it done. It's only going to be 80% as good as it would be if you did the whole thing. That's okay. You still delegate it because otherwise it's not going to get done. It's not going to have any progress. And so when you release that inner perfectionist, a lot more things get done, and you have a lot more 30-minute hours. So when you think 30-minute hour, think day before vacation mode, and then think PDF, plan, delegate, focus.
So Blaine, I think we don't really know each other that well. What I forgot to tell you when I said Mondays, I go on vacation from Tuesday through Friday.
There you go.
So that's why Monday is my most effective day. But I think the premise here is PDF every day, act every day like you're going on vacation tomorrow. And because one of the things that I was going to ask you, and you answered the question, which was, okay, this is all fine and dandy. I can have 60-minute meetings in 30 minutes. I know how to do that. I got it. But what if I have to actually do something myself that may take me an hour? And you address that with the focus part of single tasking and removing distractions and sit down. The feeling that you have when you have a big project you need to get done and you just shut off the world and go down and focus on it, the quality goes up, the time it takes you to do it goes down. Everything's just so much more efficient. And I love that aspect of it. But you're right on the batch tasking, the multitasking, the single tasking, how you can get better results. I want to come back to a couple of things here real quick that we kind of skipped over, because results is not all about shaving time. It's about being effective and productive in the time you actually spend, which you just touched on a bunch of that right there. But the power of mindset is very interesting here. And we didn't talk enough about it. The WYTAYBA, we talked about Think and Grow Rich really early on, but what you think about is so critical, and how you set goals is so critical, and your mindset is so critical. Talk to me about that and how you coach or work with entrepreneurs in that respect.
Yeah. So this concept of YTABA kind of sounds like a circus tiger's name, but YTABA stands for what you think about, you bring about. And so it's something that a little acronym I developed from reading Think and Grow Rich, but Earl Nightingale has something, we become what we think about, Gandhi, the Bible, it's all over. You can go back thousands of years. And this concept of we become what we think about. And so I added the action component, what you think about, you bring about. Like it's not just the law of attraction, think about it and it appears, which could happen for some people, but I'm more, you take actions towards that. But you're totally right that your mindset, is a key component as to the results you're going to get. And your mindset begins to dictate your reality, and then that then dictates what I call the battle of the brain chemicals. And so if you're getting stuff done and you're starting to get dopamine and serotonin going, you actually feel better, you have more energy, and you want to do more. Like done is the engine of more. Like it feeds on itself. But the opposite is also true. If you're not getting stuff done, projects are too big, you're in overwhelm, you're in burnout, then you lose the battle of the brain chemicals, and it's really hard to come back. But the way you come back to it is through your mindset. It's through, kind of like we said before, pouring in the positive. But the lens, I call it the lens of life. But whatever lens you're looking through, that tends to determine how your life works out. Jim Rohn, my mentor, said, it's not what happens that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens. But then when I studied that with Jim Rohn, I said, Jim Rohn, you're right. I can choose my response. And I didn't worry as much about circumstance or the outside world anymore. But then I realized, but what makes that happen? And what makes that happen is kind of the morning lens or intention that you're looking at life through creates that life for you. And in other words, like a simple example is if I said, John, I'm really sorry to say this, but today is going to be one of the worst days of your life. And so later that day, you're almost hit by a car. You're going to be shaking. Blaine was right. This is the worst day. What's going to happen next to me? You're going to be defeated. And your brain chemistry and your posture is going to be in a defeated posture, right? Now, if that same morning I said, John, I've got some good news. Today is going to be one of the best days of your life. Now, the same exact thing happens. You're almost hit by the car. Now, initially, your body's going to have a little shock from almost being hit by the car. But then immediately upon that, after that, you're going to change to the winner's mindset, because you're going to be like, I'm still here. Like there's a reason here. The universe wants me on this planet. I still have more to do. My life was spared. I'm saved. And you're like energetic, full of energy, full of positive brain chemicals. But all that happened just because of the lens of life that you're looking through. So you have to be real careful. And most of the people that are struggling, are looking through a dirty lens, a poor lens. Now, sometimes things are so bad that it's hard to turn it around. And that's why I also like to say, win early, win often. So I like to chunk things way down to make sure you win, because it's in the winning that you begin to win the battle of the brain chemicals. An easy example is someone says, Blaine, I'm going to start working out. Okay, how much? I'm going to work out 30 minutes a day. And then I come back a week later and maybe did it 2 days. So they feel like a failure, right? So we take it down. We take it down to 20 minutes, 10 minutes. 1 minute. If I have to go down to, there's some people I had to go to 1 minute. I said, just give me some jumping jacks or push-ups before you get in the shower, but once they put 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row, then the confidence comes back, then they've turned the corner. Right. So anyway, a longer answer than maybe you wanted, but
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And I'm a big believer personally that what you set your mind to, you can achieve. And I love something you said earlier too. When I asked you, I do not have enough time, and your response was, you have enough time for what you want to believe, right? Which is basically, I don't have enough time is kind of one of those comments that, okay, if you say you don't have enough time, then you don't have enough time. That's why the
Right.
but comes in, is it forces you to go, yeah, but that's a cop out. Here's what I can be doing about it. It's all about, Rich, right? We've talked about this on many episodes throughout the past year and a half, 2 years. Language is so important, right? You even talked about the the afformations versus the affirmations, right? It's a small tweak, but it makes a big difference. And all the things you brought to us today is very, very important. So much so that I don't know how we could have done this hour in 30 minutes because there's so much information and so much knowledge, but the principles apply. My understanding, Blaine, is you have about 3 books that you wrote. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have a different books. Some I wrote a chapter in, I was kind of co-author. And the one that I like the most is I have something called the Think and Grow Rich book study edition. And that book is special to me because, so I in college, right, I read Think and Grow Rich, right? Then a number of years later, I made enough money, had enough success that I bought one of the original 5,000 copies. They say there's 100 million copies. There's definitely tens of millions of copies of the book, but I bought one of the original 5,000 copies, and I got it. It cost me like $1,000. I got it, and I opened it up, and the first page was different. And I'm like, wait, what? So I went back and I still had what I read in college. I still have, this is the one I read in college, and this is the one that I bought. And when I opened it up, and I'll open up, the very first page says, what do you want most? And that wasn't in the other book. And so I realized that most people read the wrong version. Now, most of the book is the same, but there's instructional pages in the beginning, and then some of it was different, and some of it lost the flavor. Like Napoleon Hill did a lot of shouting, like a lot of all caps and boldings and italics, and all that was gone. All that was gone in the version most people read. And so luckily for me, the original facsimile copy was in the public domain. And so I was able to create a derivative work that has my guidebook along with the original text, and then a book study, which is like beginning and ending of each chapter, a little book study, because the instructional pages made the difference for me. And my business was worth about 300 grand when I found the original copy. And I wanted to have $1 million business. And I thought it might take me like 5 years, but instead it happened in 5 months because I applied those instructions. And in a nutshell, the first instruction was, know exactly what you want. What do you want most, in very granular detail? But the second part was you had to read the book in a collection of minds, in a mastermind group, in a certain format. And so that's what I did. I read the book every month for 5 months in groups of different people, and then when that opportunity walked in, actually was through merger. I wasn't even thinking about merger. I was thinking about growing it myself, but an opportunity for a merger came in. I was like, that's it. That's what I've been, Waiteba-ing, that was my bring about statement. And when it walked in, I knew it right away. So anyway, that's my favorite book at the moment.
Awesome. How can our audience learn more about Chief Results Officer, or Selfluence?
Yeah.
What's the next step that people should take if they want to learn more?
I think the easiest step is just to go to BlaineTEDx.com. So BlaineTEDx.com. And at that website, you can opt in. I did a TEDx talk about Waiteba, what you think about, you bring about, and then you'll get to know me. You'll be on my list. But then also, you can reach out to me, and any way I can serve you, I would love to do it. And that's why I'm here. So, I'm here to do this. We have something called the Powerball test, where we say, basically, if I won the Powerball last Saturday night and it was $500 million, I would still be here today doing the podcast. Now, I might have been giving away free cars or something, but I would still be here doing this because it passes the Powerball test. Like, it's something that I feel like I'm called to do, want to do, and love to do. So my wife and I are always talking about, do you want to do that? And they're like, does that pass the Powerball test? And if it does, stay with it.
Love it. Thank you, Blaine.
All right. Thank you, guys. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate it. And the bad news is time flies. The good news, you're the pilot. So do a good job as that pilot.
Please stick around for a few more minutes while Rich and I break down this episode.
John, I think I fall into that. I think you said it was Parkinson's Law, where the work will expand to the time you give it. I think I fall into that quite often. I think in our business, we have a habit of scheduling hour-long conversations. We tried to move it to 45-minute conversations. And by the way, if you ever want to move it to 45-minute conversations, start at 15 minutes past the hour. Don't end 15 minutes to the hour, because everybody knows that's a false ceiling and they'll just take it all the way up to the hour. But if you start 15 minutes past the hour, nobody expects you to be early. So you have that 45 minutes. But I'm thinking about, could I move the 45-minute conversations to a half hour, and can we get right to it? Because it is amazing. The calls that I'm on last as long as they're scheduled. So if it's scheduled for an hour, very rarely do we get off in 40 minutes. But could that have taken a half hour?
Sure. Or 20 minutes or 15 or not even happen. One of the things to that same note, a lot of us, when we're in the mix of our businesses, and specifically think about a startup business, they're hustling every single day trying to get their business going, right? They may listen to this episode and think, I can't do that. There's no way I can split my day and only do a 4-hour day because my 8 hours of meetings became 4 hours. There's just no way I can do that. However, isn't it ironic that we can go on vacation, be overwhelmed by the vacation, come back, and then 2 days after the vacation, we're back to normal again, and nothing, you missed a whole week worth of work, but you cut it up in a day.
That's true.
And so I was always fascinated by that. And so many people believe that if they don't do all the things they have to do today, that they're just going to fall behind. But yet we can go on vacation. And as we talked about in this episode with Blaine, prepare before the vacation, catch up the day we get back from vacation. And we just had a whole week of self-care and taking care of ourselves and not burning out. And so I truly believe a lot of this comes all the way back to mindset. I love the tools that were here with the PDF and the 3 things between, clearing the head trash, the bad habit elimination, creating good habits, the compressing of time, and what we talked about regarding single tasking, multitasking, batch tasking. But at the end of the day, what do you want? Do you want to work, 15, 16-hour days, not see your family, not have a personal life, not have a family life, not have a social life? What are you in this for? What are you ultimately in business for? As an entrepreneur, what are you in business for? If you're working for a company, why are you working there? What do you really want? And he said it right here at the end. Know exactly what you want. And a lot of this is mindset. What you think about, you bring about. You have to set those goals in your life of what are you doing and why are you doing it? And is that what you want? From there, this becomes a lot easier to digest, because who doesn't want to spend a 4-hour workday instead of an 8-hour workday and be just as effective? As a matter of fact, chances are we'll probably go 6 hours instead of 4, but you're still more effective and you got more time on your hands to think about yourself, to sit down and plan what you want to do with the rest of the year, your life. There's just so many efficiencies in all of that it all starts with mindset in my mind.
Well, know what you want is exactly where he ended, and that's the beginning of that. One of the 5,000 original Think and Grow Rich books that he showed was the very first thing. And I think Blaine is a good example of that, of what he said he did with his business. I come back to this 21-second habit. I'm trying to think of a time where I have purposefully, consciously done habit linking. I'm not sure. I think I've done it, but I haven't used it as a tactic. Have you used that as a purposeful tactic to create new habits? I don't think I have.
Not with forethought, right?
Yeah.
Do I, clean out my ears with Q-tips after the shower? Yes.
Right.
That's probably linked, of some sort. So yeah, there's linkage that occurs, but the intentional, I'm having a hard time doing something. So I'm going to now think about how I can link it to something and make it easier for me to do it surf the urge somehow, figure out some way that I can trigger that to happen, which I think could be very difficult, and give myself some sort of reward mechanism visually where I know where I'm at. Usually what people do is they do the third one. They say, I'm going to go on a diet, for lack of a better example, and I'm going to track it. And if I go for 60 days, then I'm going to buy myself something nice, or I'm going to go on vacation.
And it can't be a pizza if it's a diet.
Exactly. And they go straight to step 3, which is I'm going to go with the leverage thing, the risk, the reward, and the pain, and I'm going to go straight there. I think 21 seconds is really in what can I link this to, and how can I create a system where I can surf the urge? That is the magic of that 21-second habit, and I absolutely love it, and I would love to test it. I'd love to figure out, maybe both you and I could take an example of something that we would love to develop as a habit we're struggling with, and figure out how we can link and surf the urge on it and see if it works.
I think it's brilliant. Similar to you, I've never consciously done it, and I would like to. I'd like to take a little inventory of some new habits I'd like to create, see if I could do some linking there. Another one that you recapped for a quick moment was the tasking, the single, multi, and batch. When you talked about the multi, 2 tasks at the same time without sacrificing the quality of either. And I think when I get on the treadmill or I take a walk and I listen to a podcast, I think I'm in the zone when I do that, and I'm doing 2 things at one time. I'm trying to think of other things that I could do 2 at a time. So I think that's another one that I think I want to tap into. Are there other things that I could do 2 things at the same time and not sacrifice the quality of either? And specifically something that's going to pour into the positive. I really like the quote, the solution of pollution is dilution.
I love that.
And pouring in the positive and really take inventory of what makes you feel good and do more of that. I don't know. I don't have a list anywhere around that is here are all the things that make me feel good. Do you have a list like that? Because if you do, you haven't told me about it, by the way.
So I don't,
Okay.
but I think you know what a lot of those things are. But at the same token, I love the idea.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, it depends on where you're at, Rich. Like, you got to meet people where they're at. I personally don't feel right now like I need to make a list of the positive things and the not so good things, the bad influences and the good influences at this particular moment. Because I feel a healthy dose of good influences in my life in terms of my routines, what I listen to, how I listen to music. Like, I feel like I'm in a good spot. However, what a magical thing to ask somebody to do if they're always dwelling in the negative. And the whole clean out the trash methodology combined with, listen, make a list of all the things that make you feel good and all the things that don't make you feel good. And sometimes it's business partners. Sometimes it's employees. Sometimes it's vendors. Sometimes it's family related. Sometimes it's the friends you hang out with, right? We know this from having kids. Like sometimes there's good influences and bad influences. You want them to hang out with these kids, not these kids. But if you have an entrepreneur that you're coaching that's struggling with too much negative influence going on, having them make this list and say, okay, we're going to start doing more of these things and let's eliminate all of these. The drastic difference in their life is huge, which is Unnecessary Endings. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
Yes.
But right, Unnecessary Endings really talks about sometimes we just have these things in our life that have come to a natural termination, but we keep them in our life, although they bring us negative energy all the time, versus getting rid of them. As hard as that is to get rid of that negative energy, how that changes our life and gives us a positive outlook on really what we want to achieve.
There were so many things in this episode with Blaine that I think could be actionable. I mean, it was just, things just kept coming from him, and he is just a wealth of wisdom. And I would challenge you and myself and any of the listeners to pull one thing that you got from Blaine and actually act on it. And I would say the thing that I want to pull, John, is the habit linking. I want to see what habits do I want to create and what can I link them to. That'll be the thing that I'm going to pull and I'm going to act on as a minimum of one.
Love it. I'll do the same.